Welcome back to the Ross Bolen podcast. I am your host, Ross Bolen, joined as always by the man they call J-Bone, Jared Borislow.
J-Bone.
J-Bone. Jared, the World Series starts tonight.
Yeah, you excited, Ross?
Obviously a large Astros fan.
Your guys.
Very excited that my boys are back in the October Classic for the fourth time in 6 years, going up against the Philadelphia Phillies. Any interest in this series as a fan whose team isn't involved, Jared? Because it's like when, for instance, the Rockets don't make the NBA Finals, right? So some years, the NBA Finals have a matchup that is extremely attractive to me because it has enough superstars and big city teams or whatever, right? Where do you sit with this World Series matchup?
As with every World Series that contains a team or both teams that are not mine,
Yeah.
I will be watching every elimination game.
Elimination games.
That's it.
I think that's fairly standard, right? Because the World Series for me is definitely not much must-watch sports. It's completely dependent on the matchup for me. It's almost like ACL with the lineup, like a music festival with the lineup. Like the lineup really makes it whether or not I feel like I have to go, or I'm going to have FOMO if I don't go, or if I don't watch.
And to be clear, like when it comes to baseball, I will not watch any baseball game that is not my own team if it is not an elimination game of some sorts. Like I would watch all playoff elimination games. I will watch.
You're not there yet, age-wise.
No.
I wasn't either. I remember as a younger man in my early 20s watching my then boss take in regular season baseball games in a lazy boy on the weekends like a 74-year-old retiree and thinking like, what the hell? How do you get to a point in life where this is the level of entertainment that satisfies your pathetic being? And now I'm there. The answer is you just have to get a certain age where your energy levels are low enough, you've lost enough T, enough testosterone, that by 6:37 every day, you're basically a walking zombie anyway. So you just lay there or sit there reclined and you watch the slowest sport in the history of man unfold. Is there a slower sport, like a mainstream sport, than baseball?
No, absolutely
Inarguably boring at different points. Not in the World Series, of course, or not in an elimination game, which takes me to your point. Those are the exciting games. If you're not a fan of either team and you're watching simply as a sports fan.
I can amend this. I will watch any elimination game, like I'll put it on from the beginning to the end because it's the World Series. But I will also put on any close game starting in the 7th inning.
That's fair too. If you get like one of those close game alerts, that's one of the better things that technology has provided us, by the way. It's also being overused at this point because I'll be watching like House of the Dragon, and I get an Apple TV alert that's like, close game between the Nuggets and Sixers. And I'm like, we're 5 games into the regular season. I don't give a shit, and you're interrupting my show. What the hell?
I will say that the close game alert just saved me the other day. I was watching like a YouTube video, and it goes, close game between the Lightning and
a hockey game.
It's a hockey game.
You're Ning.
I famously don't watch regular season Lightning unless I'm at the stadium. I watch playoff Lightning. And the thing is this, I hang out with my family every so often, and they watch every single game. So like I take in at least like 5 over the course of the year, either going or just watching it with them. So I get my fix in, but I get to watch the Lightning scored the go-ahead goal with like 3 minutes left. Got to watch the end of the game.
Because of the alert?
Because of the alert.
Hey.
Brought me in.
How about that?
It was nice.
That is one of the things about baseball that I've also discovered is it's kind of like a passive background. You know how people will put on like The Office and just kind of go about their day, doing dishes, whatever, making dinner. Baseball is a great sport for that.
It is.
So it's not necessarily you have to sit there with your eyes glued to the screen the whole time, and like the crowd noise will alert you when something worth watching is happening.
And the crack of the bat.
Yeah, and it's not quite like soccer where if you look away, you miss the only goal, and then you've completely blown the entire experience because you're only seeing the replay. It's not quite like that, right? Like you have time to get to the TV, right? You know if runners are on base. You know if there's a scoring situation. You know where you're at in the game. Like you said, 7th inning, 8th inning, 9th inning, you tune in more. It's the end of the game.
Yeah, you
where
brought
the
up a good
excitement
point.
Happens.
This season, I've been watching replays of all the Tottenham games because, like, you know, some of them are early, and I have F1 that I wake up early for, so like I'm not trying to wake up early when I don't have
soccer. If you don't know what Tottenham is,
yeah,
it's European soccer.
And sometimes I'm thinking like, ooh, I should just put it on while I'm like doing the dishes and like the laundry and stuff. And sometimes I do it, but it's always when I'm looking away is when
someone
the
finally
goal
scores.
I'm like you can't, I'm like, well, come on.
It kind of ruins it.
Yeah.
It's just like,
But then also another thing about soccer is when I do dedicate myself to watching it, I'm usually just on my phone for like a quarter of it, and then luckily most of the time I can look up because of the announcer in time.
Yeah.
Sometimes
You get
don't.
an indication through the intensity in their announcing.
And there's nothing worse than celebrating a goal in sports or something when you look up from your phone and it already happened and you're like, did I just waste all this time like even watching this?
I've been watching this whole match.
Yeah.
And I missed the only thing that's going to matter, the one goal in the entire. Yeah, soccer can be tough like that. Baseball, not quite, but there can be longer lulls in action in baseball. Sometimes the whole game. You get into a pitching duel where nobody is hitting the baseball. And, if you're super into pitching, it's still somewhat exciting. But for the casual fan, if absolutely no scoring is taking place, no hitting, no base runners, that could be classified as #boring.
I just watched, some would argue, the biggest example of what you just said of all time when I was in Pennsylvania for that wedding. The Tampa Bay Rays played the Cleveland Guardians, and there was no score until like the 13th inning.
Yeah, we had one of those games. It sucked. We went into extras 0-0 until I think it was also like the 12th or 13th inning. No, that's not true. It was the 18th inning. We played 2 full baseball games. It was a fucking nightmare.
Not with
Series before the Yankees.
Not with no score.
Yes, with no score. It was hell. You don't remember this? It was like a week and a half ago. Yeah.
With no, are you sure?
0-0 until 2 baseball games had been played. I think it was 18 innings.
I was at ACL for this. That's why I don't remember. But I remember seeing it. I remember the like final act had just ended.
Astros Mariners.
Yeah.
Tied for the longest postseason game in MLB history. Ridiculous.
What was the final score?
Jeremy Pena hits an 18th inning homer for us to sweep them 1-0, 18 innings. End of series.
Yeah, I remember leaving ACL and looking over at the beer tent, and the game was still on, and I was like, I'm pretty sure this started like 6 hours ago.
I sat there and watched that entire thing, and it was hell. Hell. It got to the point where I was doing I was gaming and had one headphone off and was listening to the baseball game with my other ear because nothing happened for 2 full baseball games until a walk-off home run. It was absurd, and baseball can be like that sometimes. Regardless, to digress, World Series does start tonight, 7 o'clock, 7:03. I don't know why they do this with the start times. They have to be obscure.
To make you remember.
7:03 p.m. It's effective. I did remember. Central Time, 7:03 p.m. Facing the Phillies. Should be fun. Astros, obviously a very hated franchise, sport-wide still. Phillies fans and Philadelphia fans in general, notoriously crazy, right? Through batteries and snowballs at Santa Claus, city filled with lunatics. So I'm interested to see how the fan bases interact as well.
I'm telling you, the Philly fans who travel, you might get the odd asshole, but generally they taper it because they know they're going to get the shit beat out.
Traveling fans are typically a little wiser.
Yeah, but like when you
but
guys
in their stadium, oh no, that's not. I'm not going there.
You would not last 15 minutes there because the first time
I have no desire to go.
First time one of them called you out, which would 100% be in the parking lot, like before you even got
before
close
you
to
even
the stadium,
get in. Yeah,
you would have to clap back because you're you.
Yeah,
and then they're not going to back
down.
down.
I'm going to get stabbed.
And you're going to
get
get
in the parking
stabbed.
lot.
Yes.
And I'm one of those stories about an idiot who went to a sporting event and died in the parking lot because he couldn't shut up.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not going to Philly. That's without question. I'm watching Game 1 in the comfort of my home. This is not oh, you got to go to the bar and be with the other fans. No. I get it for some of y'all, for some sports fans, that's an enjoyable environment. Especially during the regular season. It used to be my go-to. I loved it. Nothing like watching sports at a bar with a whole bunch of other people and the game doesn't matter and you're just getting wasted. But in the World Series, I cannot do that. I have to be at home with people who understand the circumstances and aren't trying to talk to me during important parts of the game.
You also don't drink, so I don't.
Well, no, it's not appealing anymore for that reason too. I'm 5 years dry now, as of yesterday, which we'll talk more about later. But just in general, Game 1, I've got to be in a safe space, in my safe space. It's my mom's living room, and then I'm going to try to go to Game 2, and it's going to cost a pretty penny. It's like $500 to get in the door. And that's before taxes and fees and shit, which are probably another $300 because that's how resale works. And it's hell.
If you're listening and you have an extra ticket, hook Ross up.
Please hook me up with 2.
Come on, 2.
But
2.
Before I do any complaining, the prices in Philly are 3x.
Oh, really? Oh.
Yeah, it's insane. Well, they haven't been since the 80s or something crazy.
They literally beat my Tampa Bay Rays in 2008, jerk.
2008.
Can you just remember my pain?
1980s, same thing. That's the same distance in time for me.
Fun fact, their first baseman at the time was Ryan Howard, who
I remember Ryan Howard.
he had a house 1.5 miles from me. He had the biggest house in the county.
No shit.
Or at least it was the biggest waterfront house in the county. It was massive.
Yeah.
And he sold it to like somebody who owns a car dealership, some weirdo. It was huge though.
World Series tonight. In other sports news, Tom Brady and his wife Gisele are divorcing after 13 years. I'm just going to read you a little piece from NPR here. All right. The divorce landed in the midst of Brady's 23rd NFL season and just months after the 7-time Super Bowl champion put an end to his short-lived retirement. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers quarterback, who had long stated a desire to spend more time with Bundchen, Gisele, and his 3 children, announced his departure from the game in February, only to change his mind 40 days later. Look, I'm not going to sit here and pry into this man's personal life or this woman's personal life or pick on this family for the difficult time they're going through. But if you don't find humor in the greatest quarterback of all time and in this paragraph describing his career and how he walked away after 23 seasons and 7 Super Bowls and repeatedly said that it was for the sake of spending more time with his family who had made all these sacrifices for him, and then he unretires 40 days later and it ruins his marriage and shatters his family, like that is on a very disturbing and sick level, hilarious. What's wrong with this guy?
Because this is NPR, it doesn't mention the fact. You know what the biggest like tabloid thing is about this divorce,
what?
Right? The fact that everybody is saying Gisele Bundchen is a witch.
What? A witch?
Yes, like a practicing sorceress.
That's the tabloid version of the story?
How have you not heard about this? Look it up. There's apparently been like interviews where people are like, yeah, Gisele like casts a spell on Tom before every game, and that's why he's so good. And now people are saying she's not casting spells on him anymore, potentially could even be cursing him, and that's why his performance this season is downgraded.
I'm looking at a headline that says, can't believe I'm reading this. TikTok witches say Gisele Bundchen is taking her energy back from Tom Brady amid divorce rumors.
Exactly.
So this is a TikTok thing.
No, it's not. No, it's made its way to like the big things.
I mean, the first 2 headlines when you Google Gisele Bundchen witch are TikTok witches.
Okay, yeah, but that's because people know that gets clicks.
How is it that every category of human is represented on that app in a community way? It's the best social media app for that I've ever seen. Like where you can find the witches, you can find the furries, you can find any type of lifestyle people are living. They're on TikTok represented. The witches? I had not seen this. I did not see.
So people are saying she's the reason why his performance has decreased, his output.
Oh my God, this is a lot of headlines. Like you can scroll through multiple pages of indexing on Google, and there's just nothing but stories about people accusing her of being a witch.
Yeah.
That is the most Monty Python shit I have ever heard. He is a freak show. He can't walk away. He's an addict to the game, to the attention. I made a tweet joke at the expense of his children and family that I will share with you now. I made it a quote from Tom Brady. He says to his children explaining the divorce, he says, "Daddy loves you kids and mommy very much. He just loves football and attention even more." And that's kind of the takeaway. How do you look at it any other way? I don't know the ins and outs of their family, obviously, but oh my God, from a PR standpoint, he has completely choked this. The only negative story about his wife is that she might be a witch, which is obviously patently ridiculous.
Okay.
On the other hand, the story about him is pretty straightforward. He couldn't put down the football.
Looks like you are falling right into the witch's spell.
Maybe she's already cast it on me, huh?
No, she wouldn't waste her energy on you.
It does feel petty to pick on Brady, but it feels like as an outsider looking in and just absorbing some of the general coverage of it in the mainstream media, he looks like an asshole. And it's the worst start in his NFL career. Things aren't going well for him. I wish him well. I hope he recovers. I hope the whole family recovers well.
Now, for what everybody's really been waiting for, it's J-Bone's Kardashian Corner.
Oh, hell yeah.
Corner with a K. Well, you know, folks, that Gisele must not be doing too well right now because she didn't, notably, appear in Kim Kardashian's Icon campaign for her Skims line of lingerie.
How do you know so much about this?
Well, I watched The Kardashians on Hulu.
Wow. Did they discuss this?
Not sure if she was invited, but Tyra Banks was there. Candace Swainpool was there.
So all the
All the
top model,
icons.
the top
Who's
model
the other one?
icons.
The Alessandra Ambrosio, is that her name? She was there. Might have been one more. Oh, and
Naomi
Heidi
Campbell?
Klum. Heidi Klum.
Cindy
of course.
Crawford,
No. Heidi Klum.
Kate Moss.
Heidi Klum was there. She's 49 and she's killing it still.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
But famously not married to Seal anymore.
I know.
That's sad.
Another divorce. Bummer. It's hard, man.
Sing it, bitch.
The A-list.
Fucking sing it.
I can't sing it right now. I can't sing it while we talk about divorce. It's too sad. But "Kiss from a Rose" should be sung by everyone listening immediately after the podcast ends, just for the sake of the mood. Got to lift it back up.
Okay. And that was J-Bone's Kardashian Corner with a K at the corner.
Wow, thank you, Jared. That was incredibly educational.
A lot of people said they loved my Kardashian takes, so I hope they enjoyed that one too.
A lot of people did say we hope that Jared continues to talk about the Kardashians, which made me sick to my stomach. Anyway, good luck to the Bradys and the Buccaneers. Is that your football team?
No.
Oh, yeah, I forgot.
I switched to the Packers.
Oh, yeah, Packers. Good.
Which people always, you can't see my bandwagon, or they've pretty much sucked ever
we've
since.
been through this. Jared's good. He's got an excuse. He's covered.
And they've sucked ever since I've been a fan.
He's
Well, at least they haven't made it to the Super Bowl. They made it to the NFC Championship game.
Sports! Today's episode is brought to you by MyBookie, our online sportsbook and casino sponsor here at RBP. If you're looking for a place to get all the action you can handle on the World Series, the NFL season, NBA, golf, MMA, all your sports betting needs will be taken care of at MyBookie. This weekend, actually, Jake Paul and Anderson Silva highlight the main event of what could be the biggest boxing PPV of the year. Whether you are a diehard or a casual fan, every punch that lands could be another win at MyBookie. You can predict individual matchups, bet on fights to go the distance, or bet on one of my personal favorites, fighter to win by knockout.
There's no way that Jake Paul loses this. Jake Paul would not put himself in a position where he could possibly lose until he gets high enough up.
I feel like you're going to have to pay some heavy juice to put money down on Paul for that reason. He only sets up fights that he is going to win by knockout, right?
And he's only fighting former MMA fighters, all of whom are not
they're way
boxers.
past their prime and retired.
Yeah, they're past their prime, and they're not boxers.
Yeah.
Ben Askren is literally a wrestler.
Anderson Silva's a kick guy. He's a leg guy.
Yeah,
he does the
he's
kicks.
a kickboxer.
Lots of kicking. Yeah, no sport is as fun to bet on as combat sports, and no sportsbook gives you more ways to win than MyBookie. For a limited time only, join the MyBookie family. You will have your deposit matched halfway up to $1,000. That means if you put in $1,000 and use code ROSS when you sign up to claim that bonus, they will match it with another $500. So you'll have $1,500 in your account to play with the World Series, the NFL, MMA, the boxing match this weekend, whatever you want on MyBookie. Code ROSS to sign up and claim that deposit bonus. Stipulations apply. Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with MyBookie using code ROSS when you sign up to support the show. This week's premium ad-free episode of RBP on patreon.com/Ross Bolen podcast with Jared and I was a blast, but I also got to talk about some serious stuff. Yesterday was the 5th anniversary of me quitting alcohol, walking away from booze entirely. Haven't been back since. And I spent some time on the show talking about why I quit, how I quit, but more importantly, because I've talked about both of those things before, I spoke on how I feel about being 5 years removed from that lifestyle. And because that particular topic is one I find to be very important for our whole audience to hear, and in hopes that you'll consider supporting our show on Patreon, I am sharing some of that conversation with you here today. So here is Jared and I discussing my 5-year dry anniversary and my life before and after alcohol. Enjoy. Jared, today marks 5 years sober from alcohol for me.
5 years.
5 years.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
What was your last drink, and what was the setting in which you drank it?
Oh, man. I don't even know. I really don't. I have no idea. I couldn't tell you.
If you had to guess based on where you were 5 years ago, what was your last drink? Like wine, bottle of wine, glass of wine?
Maybe.
Case of wine?
It's entirely it could have been anything, though. There's literally no way of knowing.
Rubbing alcohol?
No, definitely. I never drank rubbing alcohol, thankfully.
Spagliato?
But if you told me that, I don't even know what that is. If you told me that between the ages of 15 and 28, if you told that Ross Bolen that one day I would not drink for 5 years straight, I would have said, yeah, when I'm dead, you fucking psycho, get away from me before I start drinking right now. But it is true, after spending 15 years mainly focused on getting fucked up and having hundreds of extremely intense panic attacks when hungover as a result, I quit drinking alcohol 5 years ago today. October 27th of 2017 was the first day I woke up and said, it doesn't matter what happens today or tomorrow or the next day, I will not be drinking. And 5 days later, the Houston Astros won the World Series. 5 years after that, I still haven't had a drink, and they're back in the World Series. And at first, when I look back on it, I definitely quit drinking to try to save my first marriage, and that didn't work, obviously. But it did help me deal with those last 2 years of misery in that marriage, and once she was gone, I definitely had this period where I was like, do I drink again? Like, should I try it? Did I only quit for her? Like, she was really the only person at that point in my life that had ever complained openly about, like, my drinking or anything like that. So I was like, what if I'm fine drinking? And she was just a hater. And after a very brief period of consideration where I decided between derailing completely into the abyss and recovery, I realized that, no, I quit for me. I did it for me. And it's funny because looking back, I thought at that point when I made that decision to stop, that it would be the largest life shift I would ever experience anytime soon. Maybe ever. Like, I remember thinking, man, this may be the biggest change I ever endure. And boy, was I wrong. Here is the list of shit I have done since I last had a drink. I lost 60 pounds of weight, completely reclaimed my body, started my own company, hired and fired my first employee, hired 2 more since then, met an amazing woman, fell in love with her and her baby girl, moved to North Austin as a result, spent 9 months weaning off SSRIs, battling manic episodes and suicidal ideations and everything that came with it, got engaged, got married and became a stepdad, got pregnant, started driving again, getting more and more comfortable behind the wheel, bought my dream house, and moved back to South Austin. So literally within like a 3-year span, within a 5-year span of quitting drinking, my life has changed in more ways than it had in the 30 years that preceded it, that preceded that decision.
You missed a few things in there.
And that's just the broad strokes, like the biggest possible bullet points.
Yeah, you spanked my tight little ass quite a few times within the
Hundreds.
stretch. You lost your dog, and then hero J-Bone found him.
Very true. Very true.
2 other big events.
I mean, we've gone through all kinds of other crazy shit, but like it's been astounding to me to look back at the 5-year period at just how much has changed in my life since I made that decision. It's a completely different world for me, like a completely different set of circumstances in almost every single way other than my existing family, my mom, my dad, my brother, and then maybe a handful of people like Jared, who I knew from my old life.
Yeah. I knew Drunk Ross.
Yeah, you knew Drunk Ross fairly well, I would say. You spent a good deal of time with him.
I didn't actually meet. I only met Drunk Ross at holiday parties, and then I think 2 other times.
Yeah, see, it doesn't feel fair because it was always under like job settings.
No,
Which wasn't really like job settings with our job, but
yeah. Well, there was one time that it was not a job event. I just went and met up with you guys when you were out, and Drunk Ross was out, and I think you went sober not long after that. Actually, I was like near the end.
Was I fat?
Yeah.
Then I was probably near the end. Yeah, I was probably near the end. Ironically, since quitting drinking, I haven't experienced a whole lot of consistency in my life because I ended up getting off SSRIs. Like, I think if I had quit drinking and mental health had nothing to do with it, right, I would have experienced a total calming, like smooth transition period into what I hope is eventually coming down the pipeline for me. Peace. But because I came off those meds, I mean, I know, like, it's looking back at the last few years, has anybody really experienced a whole lot of consistency? Probably not, right? But the one constant for me has been that I don't drink. Like, I don't add to the shittiness with alcohol. I stay me, and I focus on staying me as much as I can and never going back to the days I used to wake up ashamed and anxious and afraid of what I'd done drunk. And maybe the ultimate irony is that I still haven't gotten to fully experience that living dry life peace because my brain has been so completely fucked off the SSRIs. But here's the truth. I believe that if I'd still been drinking when I got divorced or when the pandemic hit or when I was trying to get off SSRIs, I would be dead. Like 100% quitting alcohol saved my life. Like, I almost didn't make it without alcohol, like alcohol having nothing to do with it. So yeah, I would have died drunk for sure. It is one of the best decisions I've ever made in my life for that reason. And I'm not saying that decision is for everybody at all. For many of you listening, I know you're able to consume, enjoy alcohol, imbibe, and not have anything negative happen. That's great. Do you? But that isn't the case for everybody. And if you're one of the people that is experiencing mostly misery as a result of drinking, and you're like, yeah, but I can't walk away because I don't know what my life would even be. Well, I know what you mean, and I know exactly how you feel. That's exactly how I felt. It was probably the focal point of my whole life up until that point. Not my whole life, but at least 15 years. Being social meant going out and drinking, and like having friends meant drinking with them.
Especially in Austin.
But even before, in college for me, and even back in high school. Like
obviously in college.
But Austin for sure. Socially, this is it's a wet town. It's everybody's drunk here, and it's...
Well, you're the one making it so wet.
Yeah, and you're disgusting. But yeah, I get it. It's intimidating. But there is like a totally different version of life on the other side of it that I would still argue I haven't completely experienced, but I can feel it and I can see it right there, and I've gotten to experience it at different points. My mental health obviously plays a whole different kind of role, but yeah, I mean, my life's never been better, and I'm looking forward to one day having my mental health match up with the positive decisions I've made on its behalf. I assume that day will come, but if nothing else, I've shown myself and anyone else who thought they could never live without a drink, look, this can be done. There is life without alcohol, and for many of us, it's a much better life. Jared, you drunken heathen.
Well, Ross, congratulations to Japan, but also congratulations to you.
Thank you.
On 5 years of sobriety. I know generally and typically you get a chip, right? Like a little chip.
Yeah.
Like a AA chip.
Cool story. I got a 1-year chip and a 3-year chip myself, like going to meetings. I didn't go the year 2, year 3, I popped into one and grabbed one. And then I didn't get one for year 4, but one of our listeners sent me their 5-year chip as like inspiration to keep going and to say thank you for listening to the show and shit. That's like a thing people in AA do, I think. Maybe I'm not as familiar as I probably should be. But so I have a 5-year chip already, which is just kind of cool. Yeah. I went into the day like having this badass gold one that one of our listeners sent us. So shout out to the RBP gang and to that dude in particular. It meant a lot to me.
Now, I can't give you a chip to celebrate, but what I can give you is a star. And what I mean by that, Ross, is yes, finally, I will let you go skin on skin, slap my bare ass and 5-star me.
Oh my God, wow.
Yep, skin on skin for the first time. Usually we go
Jared.
At least through one layer.
I'm getting a little chubby just thinking about it, Jared.
Yeah.
I love that. Well, good. Yeah. If you've got questions about the drinking stuff or like the steps that I took early on to help myself stop, like to ease off of it or whatever you want to call it, wean off of it, transition to sober life.
Wean? Ocean man.
For me, it was like, it was about finding ways to, I mean, you have to look at everything a lot differently when you make that shift because you're no longer able to just resort to the things you used to do, like go to the bar or go to meet people for drinks or whatever. So you have to find new ways to live. And that part is complicated, but I do have a lot of advice. If you're looking for specifics, holler at me on Twitter or on Instagram. You can DM me or just whatever. Email me if you'd like, ross@rossbolandpodcast.com, and I'll be happy to help if I can.
Did you have a sponsor?
No, I never got a sponsor. Why is that funny to you?
I was trying to do a segue.
Oh, we don't have any fucking sponsors today, you dumbass. It's Patreon. But how
does that work, actually?
How long have you been sitting here thinking we needed to get to an ad read?
No, I just was I was like thinking about
30 minutes
sponsors,
into the
and
show.
I was like, wow, this would be such a good segue. I just had to say it. But did you? But
you are supposed to get a sponsor in AA though. If you really want to work the program, which I didn't, and I recommend you do if you're really like having alcohol addiction issues, you need to work that. Then yeah, you're supposed to get a sponsor. But
I guess there's a difference between being addicted and I guess just like realizing you need to stop. Is
there? It depends what you mean. Is there a difference?
In terms of whether you need a sponsor or not, I guess maybe like somebody to...
No, if you're in AA, you need a sponsor.
Okay.
I mean, that's the way they would tell you.
Yeah.
And I didn't do that, but you're not supposed to do it the way I did it.
Well, because you were Cali sober. Isn't that another thing about AA? You're supposed to be like totally sober?
No, they don't care.
Oh, they don't care?
No, as long as you're not drinking alcohol. But... they do have like there are definitely alcoholics who do not consider you sober unless you're not on anything. And that includes, like, you couldn't be on an SSRI, you couldn't be on an antidepressant, anything like that, or they don't consider you to be sober. But I also don't know why anybody would run around looking for anybody else's definition. You need to do what you need to do to be happy for you. So, like, when I was in AA, that was never an issue. Nobody ever asked me, like, are you smoking weed? Like, it's not.
No, they looked at you and
most of the people are in there trying to literally stay alive and not die of alcohol poisoning. So, like, what you're doing with your life outside of alcohol is not really of concern to anybody in there. But the alcohol side of it is, and if you're trying to quit, it is a helpful program. And there's no, like, last thing I'll say about it, there's no, like, religion tie-in, all right? That's totally optional. If you want to add, like, your God or your religion into it, it's extremely easy. Otherwise, you can just use any type of higher power, which just means you have to be able to believe that there's something in the world more important than you, right? That's the only thing you have to be able to believe. And frankly, if you can't believe that, quitting alcohol is not going to be your biggest problem. So, just something to keep in mind. Anyway, 5 years to the day, super psyched, and I'm hoping, like, the positive juju that comes with this will carry the Astros to another world championship.
Everybody's cheering for you.
Thank you very much. You love me. You really love me. All right, again, Jared and I would appreciate it enormously if you'd support our show and small business Bolen Media by hitting Patreon, patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast today. Sign up to support the show, get even more RBP in exchange, ad-free episodes weekly, even more unhinged than the normal show, get access to our Discord server. You can watch full video of the episodes just like you can on YouTube for our regularly scheduled programming. If you are in the, Enforcer tier on the RBP Patreon. Yeah. Good times are had by all. Join us on patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast today. Gain access to our whole backlog.
Oh, my
Jared,
God.
All of it.
It's hundreds. I think at this point we're at hundreds.
At least over 100.
Oh, I mean, I think we're around 200.
Ad-free episodes. So yeah, if you've listened to our whole show, you're caught up on the backlog of the regular free public episodes and you want to hear more, it'd be kind of fun for you because you can even go back, like Jared said, we've been doing it for a few years on there, so you can go back a while and hear, like, old Ross talk about stuff. You could hear me interview Jared and his mom from, like, 2019, or Jared and Jeff from 2020, I believe it was, or 2021 potentially.
2021 was me and Jeff.
Jeff Borislow, Jared's brother. So there's a lot of really, really good episodes, good guests on patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast. A lot of episodes you have not heard. If you want to get in there and enjoy them today, do so. Patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast. Minimum pledge of $5 to support the show and access that entire catalog of premium content.
Literally, it's about to be cold out. If it's not already where you live, you might be snowed inside. If you go on Patreon, you will have days and days and
weeks even.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
How many hours in a week?
That's a good question. How many? Yeah, look that up. How many hours? 54.
Take a guess at it. 54. Jesus, Jared, there's 24 in a day. It was a good guess, though. 168. I would not have guessed that.
168 hours?
That's it.
Okay,
in a week.
It's weeks if you are sleeping. Assuming you're not gonna waste the episodes while you're sleeping. If I had to guess, there's probably like 138 episodes in there. You should go check me by subscribing to the Patreon and then looking.
You're only gonna sleep 30 hours a week? Oh, you're saying there's 138 episodes in the backlog.
Yeah. So it's weeks if you're actually sleeping.
I thought you were saying you could listen to the entire backlog of 130 episodes in a week and then have the other 38 hours to sleep. And it's like, when are you going to make money and eat? You know?
Yeah. Weeks of content, and it's good stuff in there. A lot of hotline call episodes.
Great stuff.
There's a couple episodes that were so unhinged that we literally could not have put them out on the main feed if we wanted to.
I've cried on there a couple times, both from laughing and from crying.
Cade's story about watching a man get erect was amazing.
It was one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life. Cade's story. Content Cade came on Patreon with us a couple weeks ago, if you haven't heard this or somehow missed it. And it's very possible you did. We didn't get to market it all that much because House of the Dragon was going on at the same time. But he told us a story about working a bachelorette party, as the entertainment. And I'll just leave it at that. If you want to hear the story, you got to go on Patreon. But it was unbelievably funny to the point that for a several-minute period, I was crying, laughing, couldn't control myself, and almost had to stop the show to take a break because I didn't think I'd be able to recover and talk. I did.
Hey, speaking of House of the Dragon being over, it just ended this past Sunday.
It did, Jared. We covered it, the season finale on Oysters, Clams, and Cockles, the #1 House of the Dragon podcast in the realm, hosted by myself with my dear friend of over 20 years, Mr. Barrett Dudley. Big deal for us here at Bolen Media, obviously. I talked some about that on Patreon as well, but yeah, it's a huge opportunity for our company. We started this Game of Thrones podcast I did several years ago, brought it into Bolen Media when that former company fell apart, and we've been keeping it alive ever since, waiting for the first Game of Thrones spinoff to make it to the screen. Really paid off enormously for us. There's probably people listening right now who have never listened to RBP before that got exposed to it through Oysters, Clams, and Cockles. We appreciate everybody in the Clam fam for riding with us all season 1. It was awesome, man. It was a lot of fun to cover. We did a podcast for every episode discussing it. We were recording immediately after the episodes aired, so it was like an immediate recap and reaction. The only week that we didn't do that was with episode 2 because we were both at a wedding. But it was a blast. I've never done a podcast like that before, where you just go straight into the studio with like almost no preparation and you just discuss what you just took in. And it was hard. The first few episodes, you could definitely tell I was like, this is a totally different ball game than I'm used to. But then I got more and more comfortable with it, and by the end of the season, we were rolling. I can't wait to do season 2. It's probably going to be 2024.
Yeah, but in the meantime, you guys are going to be doing a lot more coverage because White Lotus starts
this Sunday, man.
And you're going to be doing the podcast instead of for House of the Dragon.
That is true.
For White Lotus, which is a great show.
If you watched season 1 of the White Lotus on HBO Max, it is awesome. Really fun vacation sort of mystery. A lot of social commentary.
Yeah.
Very funny.
Sydney Sweeney's in it for all you pervs out there.
A lot of hotties on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
Steve Zahn smoking hot.
Steve Zahn looked great.
Yeah, and it was a blast. It's only 6 episodes. You can get through it super, super quickly, and then season 2 starts on Sunday night, and we will be covering that next week on Oysters, Clams, and Cockles as well. I love TV, man. Thank God for it. We don't talk about that enough. Who invented the TV? Do you even know?
Yeah. Okay,
You got to tell us. Can't just say yeah.
Okay, I'm going to just guess. I know I think this guy invented radio, but I'm just going to say Guglielmo Marconi.
This is I think you were, in my head, that's who it is too.
But I think he did radio.
Marconi.
Didn't he do radio?
I think that was the telephone.
No, that was Alexander Graham Bell.
I think that's the dude we credit with the telephone. No. Don't the Italians credit somebody different?
No, Guglielmo Marconi was radio. Look it up.
This says television inventors. Philo Farnsworth, John Logie Baird, Kenjiro Takayanagi, and Charles Francis Jenkins. So it sounds like they don't fucking know.
No, they don't know.
One of those 4 dudes. We talked about this the other day, though. Like how? You ever watched Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory? They try to explain how TV works. I have no clue.
Oh, yeah, we talked about this on this week's Patreon episode.
Inventing a TV is crazy.
So one of them sold their cock to the devil, and the devil's like, here you go,
Here's
buddy.
some magic.
Yeah.
We're going to make magic pictures show up in this box because you sold as your cock.
As many people know, the devil
only way.
became the devil because God cut off his penis and banished him to hell.
It says it in the Bible.
It says that in the Bible. And so the devil really wanted a penis. It's like that episode of Futurama where the devil wants human hands.
I forgot about that. I love Futurama. Yeah, people don't know this, but the story of the devil and John Wayne Bobbitt are pretty much the same. He fell asleep one day, God cut off his penis and threw it out the window. Down into hell.
Who's making Lorena Bobbitt references in 2022?
I know, nobody's doing that. Lorena Bobbitt. Remember how often that came up in middle school?
Yeah,
Why?
Because we
were all obsessed with penises.
Yeah.
That's why.
Wow.
Trying
How
to
did you
figure
know
out
the
what we were
guy's
gonna do with
name?
ours.
How do you know the guy's name?
Because I Googled it. I typed in penis cut wife because I couldn't remember Lorena's name.
Well, I remembered it. Top of the head.
First headline, 25 years after cutting off husband's penis, Lorena Bobbitt is championing victims of domestic violence. Good for her. Trying to make a positive out of a weird story that everybody knows for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
Where even was that?
I'm going to guess North Carolina. That sounds,
damn it, now I have to Google again.
Kind of North Carolinian.
Lorena Bobbitt. Oh, there's a documentary as well. Back on Wikipedia, of course I am. And it looks like this happened. Oh, wait, I'm just going to read the top. John Wayne Bobbitt and Lorena Bobbitt were an American couple married on June 18, 1989, whose relationship received international press coverage in 1993 when Lorena cut off John's penis with a knife while he was asleep in bed. The penis was subsequently surgically reattached. Lorena claimed that her husband had abused her for years, and sexually. He was charged with rape later that year, actually, but was acquitted and went to star in several pornographic films.
What?
The next year, Lorena was acquitted of assault by reason of insanity, and they divorced in 1995. Okay, we might have to do that one as its own stuff to Wikipedia one day. There sounds like there's a lot more to that than I was aware of.
I'm getting the same vibes as I got from the Manti Te'o story, where I'm like, at the time you're like, oh, Manti Te'o, fuck that guy. But I feel like the more we learn about this story, the more we'd be on Lorena's side.
It sounds like she was completely justified, and her husband was a total piece of shit who deserved to have his cock chopped off.
That's the vibes I'm getting.
Yeah.
Which, have you watched the Manti Te'o doc yet? You feel so bad for him after that. Oh my God.
I haven't, but I do have a documentary talk I want to do with you. But first, today's episode is brought to you by Talkspace. It's important to prioritize your mental health and wellness every day because when you work on yourself, you'll start to see and feel positive changes in all areas of your life. The long-term effects of therapy can give you the tools to deal with the challenges you face as they arise, strengthen your relationships, give you a more optimistic outlook on life, and there's no better time to invest in yourself than right now. Talkspace lets you send messages to your dedicated therapist in the Talkspace platform, which allows you to update them on the challenges and triumphs you're facing in real time, so you don't have to wait for your next session. With Talkspace, you set goals with your therapist. They hold you accountable, make sure you're really progressing. Therapy can help you shift your perspective, find tools to cope in difficult times, and be a guiding light. I've been doing it for over a decade, folks. It's awesome. Can't more highly recommend it. Did therapy this morning. In fact, at 10 a.m. right after I woke up. But I also understand it can be a little daunting to get into. Getting started is way less daunting with Talkspace. They make connecting with a licensed therapist easy so you can stop setting aside your own mental well-being. As a listener of RBP, a member of the RBP gang, you get $100 off your first month with Talkspace. To match with a licensed therapist today, go to Talkspace.com. Make sure to use code RBP to get $100 off your first month and show support for the show. That's RBP and Talkspace.com. Speaking of mental health, I am now strongly considering signing up for psychedelic therapy to treat my personal mental health issues, depression and PTSD in particular. And to take it to what I want to talk about. Remember the first 200 episodes of this show where pretty regularly I would have on a guest who had experience with treating depression or anxiety or mental illness in general with plant medicine, like ayahuasca in the Peruvian jungle or whatever, right? We've had several guests over the years talk about all manner of different stuff. And at one point at our former company, we were pretty closely aligned with another Austin company that was very new age and into all the plant medicine and the type of therapy that drugs really is what they're called, right, can provide. And drugs has a negative connotation to it, but it shouldn't. And we're going to get to that in a second as well. This is all funny because I started to think those people were completely full of shit. After you've interviewed X amount of psychedelic fans, it just starts to sound like hogwash. All right. And I thought about that a lot last night. I think if you interviewed anybody, a whole group of people about something that was specifically that they were really passionate about, by the end of talking to a whole bunch of them, you would probably feel a little put off by the entire thing just because it's kind of a lot. Mm-hmm. People pitching you on the same thing over and over, telling you how great it is, how much it could help you, blah, blah, blah. And even more so than that, this was such a not mainstream thing at that time. I mean, it was before the pandemic. It was before the big mental health wave. And not to credit myself as some type of fucking trendsetter, but we were talking about mental health on this show regularly before that was a mainstream piece of our country. And ironically, I have now completely reversed course on these people and have started to look into it more as I've dealt with the furthering effects of PTSD and depression. And if you're like, oh, I want the backstory here. What's this guy talking about? I had no idea he was dealing with that stuff. A lot of this show has covered it over the 500 plus episodes we've done.
If you want to catch up really fast, go to patreon.com/Ross Bolen Podcast and watch the mental health minisodes.
That would help, yeah.
That would be the fastest way to do that, Ross.
That would be the fastest way, Jared.
Now, simple yes or no question.
Yeah.
Did you watch that Netflix documentary,
How to Change Your Mind?
Yes.
So I watched episode 1 last night.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to talk about. Yeah.
Here we go.
Let's do it.
Welcome.
Discovery's 4 computers now have primary control of critical vehicle functions.
Nice to be in orbit.
Discovery Houston, crash to ATO.
1,
Discovery, go and throttle.
2,
That's one
3,
small step for man,
4.
one giant leap for man.
Talking with Jared.
Ross.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
What a theme song.
It's great stuff there. Really sets the mood. Wait, so you've seen this?
No.
You've heard of it?
That's why I said Docking with Ross. I did a little voiceover, really high quality stuff there.
Oh, okay.
I need you to tell me about it. This is Docking with Ross.
All right, so my wife, obviously pretty heavily invested in my well-being at this point. And she started watching this documentary because she, honestly, she's just been one of the people in my life who's gotten me to be a lot more open-minded in terms of how mental health works and just really life in general works. And she started watching this documentary a few days ago because she's really interested in whether or not this would be something that could have a positive impact on my life. She gets to a few episodes. She's like, you got to watch it. So last night I watched episode 1, which sort of dives into, I guess, the overall, like, the idea for the documentary. And it's that this guy, Michael Pollan, is sort of the main character, if you will, the main interview guy. And he's exploring the history and uses of psychedelics, starting with LSD. Then he moves on to psilocybin, then MDMA, right? All these things we're familiar with. Acid, ecstasy, right? These drugs that, for the most part, have pretty negative connotations.
Marijuana, LSD, psilocybin, DMT, they all change the way I see, but love's the only thing that can ever change my mind.
Is that a line from a song?
I might have slightly botched it, but that's Turtles All the Way Down by Sturgill Simpson.
I knew it was going to be some type of Jared music. But yeah, so the gist of it, what you kind of get out of episode 1 is that he gives you the history of drugs in the United States, right? And it turns out back in the 60s, late 50s, early 60s, there was a ton of scientific research in the field of psychedelics and their impact on human mental health. They made a ton of progress. They were doing all kinds of studies. It was in America, here in the United States. It was crazy. Ton of development taking place. They're learning all kinds of shit about LSD and mental health and diving into that realm. If you go read about it, it almost sounds like a 2022 type of situation. But then when you find out what happened, it's infuriating. Basically, Richard Nixon became president, and he started the Vietnam War. And for the first time in the history of war, young men were saying, go fuck yourselves. We're not going. We don't want to go. Nixon blamed that on the psychedelic hippie movement in the United States. Immediately starts the war on drugs. Obviously, there's a lot of racial connotation involved in that as well on the other side of the ball, but it benefited him, his platform, his, agenda, Richard Nixon's and the United States government, and it kicked off the war on drugs, and it destroyed every single study that was occurring in the realm of mental health in terms of psychedelics, in terms of anything that wasn't big pharma, right? Which is generally not good, in my opinion. And the way that the medications we have to treat mental health in the United States, mainly SSRIs and antidepressants, in my very strong opinion, are completely ineffective long-term and sometimes even dangerous. So we need more research in this realm. And what the documentary gets into next is sort of how it's been reborn. We are in this new age, this next age of psychedelic research in the United States and into whether or not it can be used to positively impact mental health and treat things like PTSD and depression and anxiety and schizophrenia. And there's all kinds of different treatments based on which drug you're talking about. So I watched the doc, the first episode of it. It's extremely interesting. And it just kind of got me to think even further about, like, okay, what are my options here? Like, realistically, if you're going through something like I am, where you're dealing with PTSD or depression or manic episodes or whatever you've got going on, or extreme anxiety, panic attacks, panic disorder, you're in a place where you have only a few real options in the United States, right? You can go to therapy, you can go to psychiatry, you can get put on existing legal medication. That's pretty much it. There's not a lot in the way of helping yourself for mental health. It's not like, I mean, when you have a cold, you take medication, you treat it. When you get, sick, really physically ill, you do something to better yourself, whether it be rest or taking meds or whatever. It's weird that we never treated mental health that way, right? It was always like this, suck it up, be strong, get through it, move on with your life type. We just never treated mental health the same way we treat physical health. And it's starting to be more and more of a thing in the U.S. where this, the taboo is being removed, the stigma around it all is being removed more and more people have positive experiences with these drugs and they have positive impacts on their life. And eventually, I mean, it'll be long after I'm dead and gone probably, but there will be a completely different perspective from society on these drugs, I think. They'll be seen much more as medicinal than they're currently seen as like evil and society destroyers and life ruiners and whatnot. The part of that that's really fascinating to me, too much of anything can ruin your life, right? Like too much alcohol, obviously. You drink too much, you die. Or there's a lot of steps before that too, but like eventually you would die. Too much of anything is bad. You eat too much, you get extremely unhealthy. You drink too much, you get unhealthy. You smoke too much, you get unhealthy. Too much of anything is bad. So it makes sense that too much LSD or ecstasy or ketamine obviously would be bad for you. But in small, regulated doses under the care of a physician for the sake of healing, what's wrong with that? You know what I mean? What? Let me ask you this. Have you ever done psychedelics?
No.
Never did mushrooms or had shroom tea or anything like that? Never took acid? Never accidentally ingested lysergic acid?
What?
I can't remember what the full name is. But so when I was in high school, and I've told this story on the show, I was smoking a lot of pot. I was a big stoner because I was going through my teenage years, and there was a lot of stuff happening at home, and I didn't understand any of it, and I was pissed off and angry, so I smoked weed to deal with that on top of like drinking and partying with my friends or whatever. And one day, me and my buddy, we went to go buy some pot, and our weed dealer was like, "I've got some acid. You guys want to drop in and drop it?" Whatever. He said some hippie shit. And we were like, "Yep, why not?" We didn't really put any thought into it. It wasn't planned. We each bought 2 hits and took 2 hits of acid, and I went on like a 10 to 12 hour trip, and it was insane. I've told the story on the show. It's probably an episode title like the time Ross took acid in the first 20 episodes.
Didn't you throw a no-hitter for the Pittsburgh Pirates?
No, I was a different guy, but but I did have a similar experience. But it was something that I've talked about and thought a lot about, but I never really revisited in my new self as like an adult or whatever. I haven't like spent what do you think?
Laughing at my own joke.
Oh. And I revisited it like in the last couple days as this has all kind of come up, and I was thinking back to like when I took acid, what it was like and what my life was like at that point. And I had a sort of revolutionary epiphany. I think at that point I was probably fairly depressed and didn't really know what that meant or what it was, but I was super sad about like what was happening with my parents and their divorce, and like my life was falling apart from my perspective at that time. My whole foundation was my family, and it was disappearing. And I think I was really struggling to make sense of all that and deal with it emotionally. And it just kind of coincidentally happened. You can look at it however you want. Maybe God served the acid up to me or the universe or whatever. But I'm not sure if I hadn't taken that trip that I would have made it through high school the way that I did, like graduated or maybe even been alive. I have no idea. It certainly changed my outlook on the world, my perspective on the world. And I'm not saying I had a Steve Jobs moment where like I took acid and it made me invent the iPhone and change the entire planet. But it was the first time I can remember seeing the universe as so much larger and more important than just me. Right, your ego is shrunken down when you take psychedelics. That's what it does. It's sort of you cease to exist so much as you are connected to everything. And it sounds stupid and cheesy, but I swear to God, it's one of those things. I've said it before and I'll say it again. You can't really communicate this to people through words. It has to be something you experience yourself. But suffice it to say that when you wake up every day, you're the star of your own movie, right? Everything that's going to happen in that day really revolves around you and what you think and feel and do. And we're all very selfish and egocentric in this way. But when you take psychedelics, it sort of removes your ego from the entire equation, and you're interacting with the world in a completely different way for several hours in the case of the amount that I took. But looking back on the experience, I can definitely, even as a non-scientific, non-doctor person, just understand how if you did that in small, healthy doses under the guidance of a physician, that you could really work with your own psyche, ego, trauma issues, and all the emotional baggage that you have as a human being and clear yourself of it. And that's really what you're trying to do when you're moving away from PTSD and depression. The impressions that life has put upon you, you're carrying too much of them on a day-to-day. All this pain and hurt and suffering that you endured in the past is present with you because you haven't let it go. And that's a hard thing to do as a person. It's a very challenging thing to do. It's something I've been working on for years now. And that, in my opinion, this type of medicinal research is going to be enormous for generations to come. And it makes me super hopeful that eventually there will be like a breakthrough. Because Jared, when the pandemic set in and people started talking about what it was doing to them, how it was making them depressed, how not being with friends and family was isolating, was causing anxiety, people started experiencing all kind of mental health issues, right? And I thought to myself, maybe this will be it. Like maybe this will be the mental health revolution that happens where we start to really heal, right? And I don't think we're quite there yet. There's too many obstacles in the way in terms of like politics and bureaucracy, and just generally, I don't think we're all the way there yet as a country. There's too much negativity and taboo and stigma around it all. But eventually, I do have hope that this area of drugs, of research, of science, psychedelics, all these things that we've kind of seen as like hippie bullshit over the years, will be legitimized and taken extremely seriously.
This all sounds like a roundabout way of you telling me you're currently in the K-hole.
No, so I'm not in a K-hole right now, but I have been talking to more and more, and you're hitting on the thing about it that's so weird. Like, I am actively considering going to a clinic to be injected with ketamine.
Is that a horse tranquilizer?
Which I'm pretty sure is a horse trank. In small,
you need it because you have a horse cock.
That's true. That's true, Jared. But it's a bizarre thing to consider, because you think of ketamine, you think of Special K, and you think of it as one of the most dangerous and ridiculous drugs that exists that people do recreationally. But in a medicinal setting, like I got a bunch of messages from people last night because I asked on Twitter, has anybody in my following done ketamine therapy? And I had 6 or 7 different people reach out to me. Every single one of them was a positive story about how either they or their spouse or a loved one had done it and experienced enormous relief from the suffering that they were enduring. So this is basically the selling point. You get, with ketamine, which is the only legal version of this psychedelic therapy in Texas, of course it is, you basically get a short period of relief. Like, it could be 3 weeks, it could be 6 weeks, it could be 10 weeks, and then you have to go do another one. And that's kind of the downside of this version of it. But again, it's the only version legal in my state, so it's the only one I've really looked into so far. That being said, if you want to travel, you can do all kinds of crazy shit. Like in Oregon, they've got a bunch of different types of tests. Now, a lot of this is still illegal on the federal level as well. And I'm not suggesting that anybody do anything without the guidance of a professional, a doctor, and obviously, you want to adhere to the law of the land as much as you can. But for me, this is looking like it's the next step. Like, if I really want to attack this, it can't just be like there have been week spans where I haven't missed a workout. I've eaten healthy. I've gone to sleep on time. I've taken care of all of my shit. And then I've still woke up the next day and felt like my whole world was a shitstorm, was on fire. So there's something that has to be done on a different level. And just to be even more clear about my personal situation, like, I don't think this is something that I would be considering or dealing with or having to consider if I had never gotten on SSRIs, if I had never gotten on antidepressants, because I never dealt with depression before I got on antidepressants. And I never dealt with any of the stuff that I'm dealing with now before that. And most of it feels like the fallout from those drugs and the damage that they did to my brain, unfortunately. So in my case, that's where I'm at. It's going to be interesting. Obviously, I will keep the show updated as this sort of progresses. Like, I'm in the very early stages of looking into how this works right now. But if you're listening and you have experience with any of these different types of therapy regarding psychedelics or non-traditional medicine, I would love to hear from you, because it's something I'm taking very seriously. And just to be even more crystal clear, for me, one of the biggest things I want to avoid is ever being in a situation where my own mental health could negatively impact my children, right? And if I'm depressed, if I'm experiencing PTSD, if I'm anxious, and I'm not able to connect the way that I want to, that's going to impact my relationship with my family. And I can't have that shit anymore. It's been too many years of me having to deal with the ups and downs of all this mental health stuff without taking any steps that were drastic enough to potentially stop it long term. So that's where I'm at. That's the level of openness I have to the psychedelic world now. And I apologize for making fun of anybody at any point for doing what they needed to do. Because the other side of this for me, last thing I'll say, Jared, about the psychedelic stuff.
It's your podcast, man.
Easy for me to judge people. It's easy to judge people when you don't know what they're going through, right? I used to even make fun of gym rats. What kind of a psycho goes to the fucking gymnasium every day? Like guys like Cade, like Content Cade. I used to make fun of these people.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Who's gym rats?
I used to make fun of gym rats because they go to the gym every day and it's like, it's too much. Why do you need that much fitness? How could you possibly need that much time in the gym? But the older I've gotten, the more time that's passed, the more I've dealt with, the more I see like, look, everybody has their own set of challenges and circumstances and we all deal with them in different ways. But if you're judging gym guy or girl, you're in a bad boat. That's like the least toxic version of something you could pick to go do well for yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're not hurting anybody else. You're just a lunatic.
So you're open to psychedelics now.
But I'm not open to going to the gym every day.
Oh, well, okay. I was setting myself up for a punchline.
Oh.
And then as like,
Still do it.
Like, no, I don't know. Okay, fine, I'll do it. But hold on, we're gonna have to like
run it back.
I'm gonna rewind. Well, so Ross, it appears as if you're open to psychedelics, but are you open to shagadelics, baby?
Oh, behave. Today's episode is also brought to you by Shopify. I have a ton of experience using Shopify personally. Super easy platform if you're looking to sell anything online. Merchandise for your podcast, for instance. Shopify makes it simple to sell to anyone from anywhere. Whether your thing is vintage teas or recipes for ghee, start selling with Shopify and join the platform simplifying commerce for millions of your favorite businesses worldwide. With Shopify, you'll create an online store in your vibe, discover new customers, grow the following that keeps them coming back. They've got all the sales channels sorted so your business keeps growing, from an in-person POS system to an all-in-one e-commerce platform, even across social media platforms like TikTok, Facebook, and Instagram. And thanks to 24/7 support and free libraries full of educational content, Shopify has got you every step of the way. It's how every minute new sellers around the world make their first sale with Shopify, and you will too. So if you've been waiting to launch that online business, start that side hustle, and start bringing in more dough, Shopify is the way to go in my personal opinion, and makes sure super simple to set up your new business today. When you're ready to launch your thing into the spotlight, do it with Shopify, the commerce platform backing millions of businesses down the street and around the globe. Go on, try Shopify for free and start selling anywhere. Sign up for a free trial at shopify.com/RBP, all lowercase RBP. Shopify.com/RBP to start selling today. That's SHOPIFY.com/RBP, all lowercase. This is Possibility, powered by Shopify. So my Halloween weekend, Jared, has been taken over by sports. But are you doing anything spooky,
Nah.
J-Bone?
I think I'm going to go trick-or-treating.
Like in the apartment?
No, just like I'll find a neighborhood, just go alone.
Random neighborhood?
Yeah, could you imagine?
You ever done this? People do this.
As an adult.
No, not as an adult, but like, did you ever do this as a kid? Like in Tampa, did y'all ever go to the rich neighborhood?
Yeah,
and like,
yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Get like the giant Butterfingers or whatever
and then stick
the
them in my
wealthy.
ass.
Yeah.
No, here's what I want to do. I'm going to be a bedsheet ghost, and then I'm going to go trick-or-treat alone, and then I'm just going to pretend like I'm a really tall kid.
Dangerous move.
There's definitely I think you can still trick-or-treat in middle school, 100%. And
Yep,
I do believe there are middle schoolers who are 5'10" 3/4".
Absolutely, dude.
So yeah, what are they going to do?
Kids these days, these freaks.
Okay, let's try this out. Ready? Knock knock or doorbell ring.
Ding dong.
Trick or treat.
Yeah, I don't think that's gonna. That sounds like a grown man
you know
trying to
what?
get candy.
I don't know if any 5'10" kids have that high pitched of a voice.
Can I see your beard through the sheet? Because that's gonna make it real obvious.
No.
Okay.
That's a good point though. I'm gonna shave just my mustache and like a 1-inch radius around my mouth, So that if you look through the bed sheet, you can't see the beard. But so when I take it off, I still have a beard, just with a 1-inch diameter.
I'm not sure that's worth it, Jared. I don't think that look's gonna hold up after the costume's on or off. You know what I mean? Shouldn't you be dressed up as like a spooky, scary skeleton every Halloween, doing the Bone Zone dance all over town?
I'm gonna own up to something. Last year, 2021.
Okay.
I said that if we hit 50,000 TikTok followers on RBP by Halloween, I would learn the entire spooky, scary skeletons dance.
You did say
I did say that, yeah. Now, I did end up tearing my MCL,
That's true. You had an injury.
so I couldn't do the full dance.
What about for this year?
Too late. So
You
maybe
don't think you got time
no,
in 2 days?
It's a pretty intense dance.
It is. There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
I always am really impressed by, I mean, to be honest with you, I'm not entertained by the TikTok dancing, but I am impressed by it. Like, choreography, that's a lot. My memory doesn't jive that way. How many times do you have to do a dance before it's been memorized and you can just do a dance?
I watched Madison Beer at the USGP do some weird dance. Like, she did at least 2 takes on.
She's a TikToker?
Yeah, she was like on the straight before the race, and it was like an influencers in the wild moment. I'm just watching her film these fucking TikToks.
There's nothing more awkward to me. Yeah. And I think it's because I'm in the industry. But like, even if I'm at the beach and I see 2 girlfriends doing a photo shoot with each other, I cringe so hard, dude. It kills me inside. I don't know what it is. I think it's because it's my job.
Yeah, I don't really like it either.
Madison Beer. I wonder if she was in a K-hole.
She might have been. She looked like she might have been, honestly. Yeah. No, but what was I gonna say about this about dancing on TikTok? Oh, Jackson Mahomes. I can't fucking stand that guy. I can't fucking stand that guy.
One of the more easily hateable humans currently walking the earth.
It takes a lot for. I generally don't care about that much.
Yeah, you're not a big hater.
No,
that's the thing. If you get on Jared's wrong side, bad side, where he's hating on you, you've done something hateable.
He just does the same shtick. He just does a TikTok dance at a Chiefs game over and over and over, and he's not even that good at dancing. Like, if he was better at dancing, I get it.
But he's kind of stinks. He's just a
normie. Kind of
stinks with it. Yeah, he's not crushing it from a talent perspective. Yeah.
It's like, dude, I don't think you'd be famous if you weren't, like, use your connections. Use your brother being a generational talent at quarterback to get famous. That's fine. But, like, do different stuff.
Find another slam. This isn't it.
Who's that? That was the 76ers guy, right? The GM of the 76ers.
That said, find another slant.
Find a new slant.
Find a new slant.
No, but that was him on his burner Twitter account.
Oh, yeah. Defending himself.
What was his name?
I can't
Jim.
remember. It was pre-Maury, so
yeah. Is Maury the coach or the GM?
I think he's not the coach. Doc Rivers is the coach. Yeah, but I think he's everything else. He's like the president and GM and whatever. They gave him a big boy job.
Isn't that what? So Pittsburgh.
Yeah,
is a city that docks rivers because there's 2 rivers that meet to form another river.
Do they call that 2 Rivers City?
3 River City.
3 Rivers.
It's
City.
the Ohio.
The
Ohio River is the one that is at the end, and the Ohio River is a combination of the Allegheny and the Monongahela.
Huh. How about that?
My whole mom's side of the family is from Pittsburgh.
What's your favorite Halloween costume you've ever worn?
Funniest or favorite?
Favorite.
Well,
shouldn't that be the same?
No, because looking back on it, it's way funnier now than it was back then.
What was it?
I wore a full purple pimp suit.
Like all purple hat, cane.
I look like Pootie Tang.
Pootie Tang. You win as Pootie Tang. Okay. Wow. That's an interesting choice for sure. Can't see you as a pimp, Jared. I don't think you have that kind of...
Yeah, it didn't go well.
I don't think you have that energy in you, though.
So that one was pretty funny. Looking back on it. At the time, I thought I was pretty fucking sick.
You thought you were cool as shit, huh? Mine was Captain Hook, but I was like 7 years old, and it was made by my parents' cleaning lady when I was a kid. It was like a hand-sewn costume, sick pirate outfit, so badass. But now I look back on that, and I'm like, wait, isn't Captain Hook a pedophile monster?
Yeah.
Isn't that the Peter Pan origin story? Like, wasn't that the original concept?
I think so.
I'm pretty sure that Captain Hook was a pedo, and Peter was having to save all these kids from Neverland, you know? It's kind of a Michael Jackson-y type of situation.
I did go as Captain Hook one year. So,
did you have a hook?
I had the hook, yeah.
I had the hook, too. It's the best part of being Captain Hook.
We probably got it from the same Spirit Halloween.
Yeah. Shout out to everybody who's Captain Hook this weekend.
What else have I gone as? Nothing really that crazy. Did you do the thing in college where you buy? Cade did this, or Cade's roommate did this. I have a lot of friends. Freshman year, you buy a costume and you wear it every single Halloween.
You stick with the same one?
I was Ralphie from A Christmas Story. I had his pink bunny.
That's
suit.
good. Love that.
So I did
You
that.
look like a pink nightmare.
I did that all 4 years of college when I
Cade's
wasn't
been doing
the
Buddy
sausage.
the Elf every year here.
Yeah, Cade does Buddy the Elf, and he says he can't even count the amount of times people come up to him to take pictures of him when he wears it.
Yeah, it's a good costume. And
he
he's a big
looks.
dude.
He's a big guy, so he looks
Big
like
dude. So
Buddy the Elf.
it's a funny Buddy the Elf, to be sure. Yeah. Good luck to everybody this Halloween weekend. Today's episode is also brought to you by Calm.com. When you think about self-care, what comes to mind? For me, self-care is working out, making sure I have therapy scheduled every month, and taking time out of my busy schedule to use the Calm app. While I'm reading this ad, I want you to do a simple breathing exercise. Breathe in through your nose, hold it for about 5 seconds, and then exhale through your mouth. Keep this up while I tell you about today's sponsor, Calm. Back in 2020, I got into meditation for the first time. It was definitely something I kind of judged as weird before I tried it, and holy shit, has it changed my ability to stay centered and calm throughout the course of my stressful days. So if meditation was maybe one of the things that you were trying to add to your tool chest of life in 2022, and it didn't work out, why not start now? We are partnering with Calm, the #1 mental wellness app, to give you the tools that improve the way you feel, reduce stress and anxiety through guided meditations, improve focus with curated music tracks, and rest and recharge with Calm's imaginative sleep stories for children and adults. If you've got trouble falling asleep at night, or you have trouble getting going in the morning, Calm can help you with either one. If you go to calm.com/RBP, you get a special offer, 40% off a Calm premium subscription. New content is added every week. Over 100 million people around the world use Calm to take care of their minds, and Calm is ready to help you stress less, sleep more, and live a happier, healthier life.
I've been using Calm for years. Like Ross said, when I originally got into meditation, I thought it was hogwash, and then once I started doing it, I was like, oh, this is real. My favorite thing about Calm, the amazing voice of Tamara Levitt. I try to make her my internal monologue. And I've listened to so many of her meditations.
And then you can hear her voice throughout the rest of your day.
Yeah.
When you need it, you know? It's nice.
Slowly open your eyes.
Go to calm.com/RBP for 40% off unlimited access to Calm's entire library. That's calm.com/RBP.
Who's Ross Bolen?
Well,
He pressed the wrong button.
which is a hilarious button to press. This is the correct button.
Grab your light. This is Stop the Wikipedia when you're high.
Stop the Wikipedia when you're
Today's stuff to Wikipedia when you're high is the Keurig.
Oh.
Like the coffee Keurig. Keurig. I'm just going to read you a little bit and then we'll talk about why we're doing this today. From Wikipedia. Keurig founders John Sylvan and Peter Dragone had been college roommates at Colby College in Maine in the late 1970s. In the early 1990s, Sylvan, a tinkerer, had quit his tech job in Massachusetts and wanted to solve the commonplace problem of office coffee, a full pot of brewed coffee which sits and grows bitter, dense, and stale, by creating a single serving pot of coffee grounds and a machine that would brew it. Living in the greater Boston area, he went through extensive trial and error by trying to create a pod and a brewing machine. By 92, to help create a business plan, he brought in Dragone, then working as director of finance for Chiquita as a partner. They founded the company in 92, calling it Keurig. Sylvan later said that the name came from his having, quote, looked up the word excellence in Dutch. In the 2010s, beginning primarily with a 2010 article in the New York Times, Keurig has been publicly criticized by environmental advocates and journalists for the billions of non-recyclable and non-biodegradable K-Cups consumers purchase and dispose of every year, which end up in landfills, obviously. Some competing single-cup brands have single-serve pods that are recyclable, reusable, compostable, or biodegradable. So, earlier today, Jared informed me that he had to teach Cade, Content Cade, how to use the Keurig, to which I responded with laughter because, of course, it is the simplest machine in the history of man that even my dumbass knows how to use. But I'll say this. I do remember being intimidated by it. when I first went to work and we had a Keurig and I didn't know, I'd never done it before. And coffee's kind of one of those adult things that you kind of feel like everybody else knows more about you than you know, especially when you're first coming into the workforce. And so I get it. But it brought us onto this conversation about how famously the inventor, one of those two guys, John Sylvan, the dude who hollered at Dragone to create this company, as a result of all the negativity, Jared, he came out and said he wished he'd never made the thing at all.
Yeah, he's like one of the atomic bomb creators. He regrets his invention.
What's the atomic bomb quote? What does he say? I have become
he said, boom, here comes the boom. Ready or not.
He said, now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds.
Wait, isn't that a quote from a video game?
Yeah, but it's probably in the video game because Oppenheimer said it.
I was thinking of all your base belong to us.
Apparently, as he witnessed the first detonation of a nuclear weapon on July 16th, 1945, a piece of Hindu scripture ran through the mind of Robert Oppenheimer. Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds. And no, Jared, it's not the same as all your
base
belong to us. Although that is a great meme.
Here's a reason Cade gets a pass for asking me how to use the Keurig.
Yeah.
First off, I do want to note, he refilled the Keurig before asking me to come over. And I was like, if there was one thing that I thought you were going to ask me about, it's like, hey, the Keurig's out of water.
How do I put more in?
Do I just refill it? But no, he refilled it, put it in, put the pot in, closed it, then called me over.
And said, what the hell?
So all I did was put a cup under it, press strong, because you always got to do strong in the Keurig. I hit strong.
I didn't even know that was an option. See, I don't know that much.
And then I just did 8 ounces for him. Now, here's why I get to pass. Cade did not drink coffee before you and I got him needlessly and helplessly addicted to it.
Yeah, we've pushed him into the K-hole with us.
And that's not even a joke. Cade would like, he would like not really drink that much stimulants.
Yeah. Well,
no,
didn't he kind of drink those
bangs? He didn't start doing bangs till after he started working here.
Yeah.
To like get through the day. And then we were like, well, we're also not drinking coffee. You want coffee? And so he started drinking with the really sweet ones. And now he's still on the sweet train, but like I think he's slowly maybe going to do a little bit less sweet stuff.
Yeah,
and soon he'll be a black coffee legend like me.
He's doing like the French toast latte and stuff. So he's been in the Ross boat of coffee, but we've
got the pumpkin spice creamer in the fridge right now. He put that in there.
That's good stuff.
It is good stuff. It saves a lot of money too because we again have a coffee addiction and we spend a lot of money on coffee here at Bolen Media.
Yeah, we got really good coffee shops around this area.
We do.
That's the problem.
We do. It is an issue.
But Summer Moon, we got Alamo, we got not Alamo. What's it called? Radio. Excuse me.
Yeah. So that really is the thing. Is like I don't really blame him because we got him addicted on it, and we are his enablers. So like it's kind of cute. I said to him when I walked over, I go, "This is a wholesome moment."
There aren't that many ways you can get someone else addicted to something and not have it be a disaster. I mean, so this is really one of the only ones, coffee, that it can be fun.
I love coffee,
and then they work harder as a result.
Yeah,
which is good. Yeah. I saw a headline on Twitter earlier that said that the quiet quitting age was already over, and it made no sense to me. Quiet quitting was not a new thing. People have been doing this since jobs began being invented. Going to work and not working is not a new thing. That's not a new millennial thing. I don't think it'll ever be gone. It's not a Zoomer thing. I don't know why they think it's over. It's not over. I do it sometimes, and I work for me. But yeah. K-Cup guy really upset that he invented that.
Yeah, I mean...
Dude, that's the nightmare.
That dude made bank,
Coming up with a fucking genius idea. Making billions of dollars, I assume. Maybe not individually, but like K-Cups. You've sold a trillion of them at this point. Yeah. And hating it. And it destroying the world.
What's his name? John Sylvan?
Be careful what you wish for, John Sylvan.
Looking at his net worth.
By the way, while Jared does that, this weekend, Sunday... The Mexico Grand Prix, is that what it's called?
Mexico City Grand Prix, formerly known as the Mexican Grand Prix.
Formerly known as the Mexican Grand Prix. Jared has his preview up, Formula Bone F1 show, available on YouTube. Preview for the Mexico City Grand Prix is available now. Obviously, go watch it. And then after you enjoy the race on Sunday, if you're an F1 fan, tune back into Formula Bone next week for the recap.
Yep, got the preview out now, got the recap coming up, all the Mexico City Grand Prix content you could ever want. Here's what I found.
What's his value?
Despite the popularity of K-Cups, inventor John Sylvan never got rich off his idea.
And he never got rich off of them.
In 1997, he sold his stake in the company he founded for only $50,000.
What a dumbass.
But after Sylvan parted ways with the company, Keurig machines rapidly spread to office kitchens and home counters. With the merger between Keurig, Green Mountain, and Dr. Pepper Snapple completed in July 2018, the newly formed Keurig Dr. Pepper boasts approximately $11 billion in combined revenue.
I'd be pretty upset too.
You know what? I don't even know how much of this guy is like the environmental thing and how much of it is him just being
extremely upset about the financial side of it.
Yeah.
It's probably a decent combination of those two things that weighs on him on a daily basis.
Like he's the inventor of it. He invented this awful thing and then didn't even get to make money off it. So he only has the bad parts
just
of what
the
he's
negative. He just destroyed. He brought nothing to himself. Sad. Shouts to that guy.
I bet
everybody.
those were the best $50,000 ever. I wonder how those did for him.
And let's try to all get recyclable K-Cups for the kids.
Yeah, if only we didn't have like 40 more.
We already have 700. We have a year's supply left of non-recyclable ones here already. Filling up the landfill. Oh, God. Anyway, that's all we got for today. Good stuff, good fun. Hit bolenmedia.com/shop for merch for all of our brands, whether it be RBP or OCC or Formula Bone. We've got it all. bolenmedia.com/shop. Make sure you follow us on social media. We're on TikTok at The Ross Bolen Podcast, Instagram at The Ross Bolen Podcast, and Twitter at Ross Bolen Pod. Follow Jared at Jared Borislow on Twitter and Instagram. Follow me at WR Bolen. And we will be back next week.
Go Stros.
When I return from Houston, go Stros. Philly fans, good luck, I guess. No qualms with you. Please don't throw anything at me if you see me. And until next time, peace be with you. And also with you.